Hey all, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Humphrey. Today we're talking about self-employment and the things that people don't really tell you when you're about to be self-employed. So whether you're freshly self-employed, you're thinking about trying out self-employment, or if you're like me, who I've been self-employed for quite a bit now, these are 5 things that I realized over the course of my experiences that will hopefully help you out. I've basically condensed my experiences down to 5 tips that I think can help anybody that's trying to make the transition into becoming self-employed. So I hope this video helps you out, and if you're not self-employed and have absolutely no interest in becoming self-employed, but you're watching this anyway, I just want to say thank you, that's pretty cool. It should still be a pretty interesting video even if you're not self-employed. So without further ado, let's get right into the learnings. The first thing I learned while being self-employed was that making $1 working for yourself is way harder than making $1 when you're working for somebody else. Back in 2016, I was working at a tech company and I was making $140,000 a year, and I left that. And in my head, I was like, oh, don't worry, Humphrey, I'll just get back to $140,000 a year, no problem. In a year, I'll be $140,000 salary, easy. I'll probably even make 200K, 300K, 400K by the end of the first year. Yeah, I was wrong. I didn't get anywhere close to that. I think being self-employed really gives you a sense of appreciation of how hard it is to earn $1. My sole goal while being self-employed was to basically break even on my costs. And I think that this should be everybody's first goal when being self-employed, is just to break even on your cost of living. For me, it took a good 2 years and some change to even get to that point. So if you are thinking about becoming self-employed or taking a risk to become an entrepreneur, I would suggest always having about 2 years in savings, or 3 years in savings is even better if you can. This just gives you a lot more of a runway to become successful and doesn't really cut your opportunities short. Nowadays, if I make $1 on my own, I value it way more than the $1 that any company would ever pay me, just because it offers me a lot more flexibility, and I can say it's my own. I made that money on my own. It's my own personal way of doing things. So yeah, it's hard, but it offers you a lot of flexibility when you make your own money, and you can earn money on your own terms, which I really like. The second biggest realization of being self-employed is that nobody else hits the like button for you. It's just me. I'm always just constantly smashing the like button. So if you guys could drop a like on this video, I would really appreciate it. It would really help the YouTube algorithm and get me a little bit more views and more exposure so that this channel can grow, and maybe this can be my full-time job in the future. All jokes aside though, the second biggest realization I had with being self-employed is that being productive is hard and time management becomes really important. The biggest hurdle I think with being self-employed is figuring out what to do with your day and how to structure your day in a way that you can remain productive throughout the day and hit all your goals that you're striving for. Back in 2017, when I first started becoming self-employed, that was my first real summer of being self-employed, there were definitely weeks, and definitely a lot of weeks, where I just did absolutely nothing. And I'm not saying I did nothing zero, but I did very little, just the bare minimum to get by. And I spent most of my time just playing video games or trying to go on dates with girls, which, not very successful there. But maybe I'll cut that part out. I don't know. Well, maybe I'll leave it in. But anyway, being self-employed, you kind of have to be accountable to your own schedule, and doing that is really hard, especially coming from a corporate culture when you're used to working for someone else and you're used to them just telling you what to do. I would say one of the biggest pros though of this whole thing of time management is that you get to really choose when you want to work, but sometimes that does bleed into your personal life. You're just working all the time. But I have a really great explanation of this. Sometimes if you just want to go and do something, for example, last Monday I went and played golf. I had a really, really great time, but I set aside that time to play golf. And what I made sure to do was to get my work done before I went to play golf, which was great. And I also wanted to make sure that I had everything prepared for after, when I came back from golf, that I didn't really miss a beat. So that's something that people don't really tell you, is that being self-employed, you kind of have to drive your own schedule and be accountable, and that can be really hard for some people. The third thing I realized about being self-employed is that it's rather isolating. You're just working from home a lot by yourself, and I'm sure you guys have felt this if you're on quarantine and you started to work from home a little bit more on your own, that you get a little bit stir crazy being inside all the time and not really sure what to do throughout the day. There's no more of those coffee breaks where you can just go up to a friend and say, hey, how's it going? How's your weekend? There's really none of that. So a lot of the time is spent at home kind of isolated. What I try to do is I try to make time for my friends, and I always try to schedule social visits throughout the week so that I'm staying mentally refreshed and I'm not just getting too much into the weeds of just my work. Now with that comes some benefits. I get a lot more done in the time that I do have, but it is definitely weird not having this kind of back and forth of social interaction throughout the day. An option that a lot of self-employed people pursue is they go get a shared office space at something like a WeWork or a Spaces. And what I found is I did that for about 6 months, but I wasn't any more productive there than I was at home. And I just rather just be at home just to save the commute time and just to save the whole hassle. So I had an office for 6 months. I didn't find any value in it, but your mileage may vary. So if you are self-employed, you might actually like that option. One of the pros of actually getting your own office is that it's a lot more social. You get to see a lot of other entrepreneurs and a lot of other startup owners that are there, and you can actually form some connections with those people, and maybe those people can help you out in the future. You just never know. Now, I will say when I was renting my little desk at one of these Spaces, it's basically a WeWork competitor, but Spaces was charging me, I believe it was $500 a month for that space. And whether or not you think that's actually useful or not, or whether or not you think that's a good value, that's kind of up to you. But $500 a month for me for basically 20 working days in an area that wasn't really walkable, I didn't really enjoy it. And what I mean by that is that there just weren't a lot of things to go walk and get food at or just walk and see. It was just in an office park, and really I didn't see any value in it. Another option you could do is network with some other people or some other friends that are self-employed as well, and see if you guys can always just work together in the same space, not necessarily on the same thing, but just being in the presence of other people throughout the day, I think is going to give you a lot more mental saneness that being isolated would not offer you. The fourth realization I had when it comes to being self-employed is that nobody really pays your taxes for you. You have to do your taxes yourself. So what I mean by that is, typically at a corporation, the taxes are automatically deducted from your paycheck. So whatever you get in your paycheck is what you take home. But when you're self-employed, basically what happens is you get the money in your bank account or however you're paid, and you have to budget for taxes on your own. Social Security taxes can actually make up a large portion of your tax bill every year. So it's just something you have to be cognizant of. And every time I get a paycheck when I'm self-employed, let's say I receive $5,000 in a paycheck, which would be really great, I try to budget around 30% for taxes and put it in a separate account. One of the benefits of this thing is you'll never get a tax refund. Well, that could be a con too if you like a tax refund, but it's generally better not to have a tax refund, because a tax refund just means that you overpaid money to the government over the course of a year, and finally now you're getting it back. The downside is that I owe taxes every tax day no matter what, and it just depends on how big of a bill that I'm gonna get. The other thing that people don't really tell you about when you're self-employed, and this is part of the same kind of realization, is that you have to pay for your own health insurance. I'm sure some of you guys watching this already pay for your own health insurance, so you definitely feel my pain. But if you don't pay for your health insurance, let me tell you, getting that bill every month for about $527 for me every month really, really sucks. Now, I understand that we have to have it as Americans because it's generally just a good practice, but boy, do I wish I could have $527 every month back in my bank account. The fifth thing I learned about being self-employed is that you do everything. There's no more department that handles human resources or a department that handles payroll or accounting. You're in charge and you have to do it. This could be a really great opportunity to learn some new skills, but a lot of times I just don't want to do accounting, and sometimes I'm just kind of forced to do accounting. So it is definitely something that gets a little bit easier as maybe your self-employment career grows and you can start to afford to just pay an accountant or pay someone to do something that you don't really want to do. But in the beginning, you're just literally doing everything. And there's definitely a tax on your mental state when you're switching consistently from, one topic to another. So let's say you go from accounting and then all of a sudden you got to work on marketing and then you have to do some customer support. Well, your brain has to switch, between these different departments all the time. And in your head, that can actually cause a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety if you're not used to switching tasks all the time. I hope that if you become self-employed, you're able to grow your business so that you can start outsourcing the stuff that you don't really want to do. Chances are most people are really good at a few different skills and they should outsource all the things that they're not super good at. Using my example, I could probably outsource accounting because I'm not very good at that, but I could focus more of my time into the things that I am good at and that I can get more of a value out of my time. So something like marketing or product design. So those are the things that no one tells you about being self-employed, and I hope that you found this video educational, interesting, and entertaining. If you haven't already, make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and tick the notification bell because I post videos here every single week on entrepreneurship and personal finance. As always, make sure to leave me a comment if you have any questions, or just leave a comment just to say hi. I love building a connection with you guys. I love hearing from you guys. So thank you for watching. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.